She thinks she's in control. She walks through the world with the illusion that men orbit her, that every glance, every message, every gesture is proof that she is the one choosing. And most of the time, she's right. Most men throw themselves into her gravitational pull, giving without being asked, offering their presence, their energy, their value, before she even knows their name. But then, one man doesn't. One man looks her in the eye, unshaken. One man listens without leaning in. One man walks away from the moment before she finishes the sentence. And suddenly, everything in her shifts. She doesn't know why, but she replays what he said. He wonders what he's doing. He tells herself she doesn't care, but scrolls through her phone just in case he posted something. And then it hits her. She's thinking about a man who didn't even try to be remembered. That's the first rule of the mind game. Obsession isn't created through attention, it's born in absence. And the man who understands that knows how to flip the entire script of desire. He doesn't need to insult her. He doesn't need to be rude. He simply does not offer his attention for free. He understands that women don't want men who offer themselves like discount items in a clearance sale. They want men whose presence is rare. They want men whose energy must be earned. Not because he's playing hard to get, but because he actually is hard to get. And not for lack of confidence, but for excess of purpose. This man doesn't reply quickly, not because he's calculating, but because he's building something so powerful that even he forgets to check his phone. He doesn't chase beauty, not because he doesn't enjoy it, but because he knows that beauty is abundant, and self-respect is not. And when she senses that she's beautiful and he still won't kneel, he starts to question everything. This is where the mind game begins. Not in manipulation, not in pretending, but in deep alignment with power. Because when you truly do not need her, when your life is rich without her, when your silence speaks louder than another man's best performance, you activate a part of her mind that most men never touch. And once you've activated it, she cannot turn it off. Now she's watching him more than she's watching her reflection. She starts dressing for him without realizing it. She posts things just vague enough to catch his attention. And when he doesn't respond, she posts again. Her mind, once occupied with validation from the masses, is now hijacked by one man who refuses to participate in the game she usually wins. And that's where the mind game deepens. Because this man isn't trying to be mysterious, he is mysterious. Not because he's hiding, but because he's busy. His energy isn't spent wondering what she thinks. His energy is directed toward building, toward mastering his body, his craft, his vision, his silence. He doesn't need to seduce. His focus is seduction. Most men don't get this. They think pursuit is about pressure. More effort, more compliments, more access. But attention given too freely devalues itself. And this man never devalues himself. He knows that the woman's mind is an open loop. It doesn't need certainty. It doesn't crave answers. It craves possibility. And he becomes that possibility, not by explaining himself, but by remaining unbothered. She doesn't know where she stands with him, and that's the hook. Because uncertainty drives more attention than comfort ever could. You must understand, a woman cannot fantasize about a man who's too available. She needs room to imagine. She needs distance to wonder. And she needs space to desire, and most men collapse that space the moment they feel connection. They send long messages, they overshare, they compensate, they try to be chosen. But this man, he chooses. And in that reversal, he becomes irresistible. He's not mean, he's not playing games, he's just not addicted to outcomes. Because he has something more important than her attention, his center.
And the moment she realizes she's not at the center of his world, she starts trying to enter it, not as a visitor, but as a contender. Because this kind of man doesn't let women walk in through compliments and beauty. They have to bring something real, something earned. And now she's obsessed, not because he chased her, but because he didn't flinch when she walked by. He didn't blink when she smiled. He didn't change when she disappeared. He just kept walking, like a man who was never going to stop anyway. She now studies him like a riddle. Why doesn't he chase? Why doesn't he validate? Why doesn't he break like the others? She tries to shake him with silence. He stays calm. She tries to lure him with beauty. He stays focused. She tries to guilt him with absence, but he doesn't even notice, because this man has no wounds to fill with affection, no need to perform, no hunger for approval. He's not avoiding connection. He's just immune to manipulation, and that immunity drives her mad, because in a world where most men give their attention too quickly, his costs something. Not money, not beauty, not flirtation, but depth. If she wants more of him, she must rise, because he won't fall. Not for charm, not for games, not for shallow behavior dipped in perfume. He's not waiting to be chosen. He's building a life that others want to be chosen into. This is the mind game. When you no longer play it, you start to win, because she realizes he didn't need her to feel alive. He didn't need her to feel powerful. He didn't even need her to feel desired. He was already those things, and that is what she wants to feel next to. That wholeness. This man is not an answer to her emptiness. He is a mirror to it, and she has two choices: rise into the woman who deserves his presence, or keep chasing ghosts that flatter her ego but starve her soul. And here's the brutal truth. Most women don't chase men. They chase the feeling a man gives them. And when that feeling is rooted in grounded power, stillness, controlled depth, they become addicted, not to the man, but to the part of themselves he awakens. That's the art. That's the power. That's the mind game. And the best part, you don't need to run it. You just need to become it. Become the mystery. Become the silence. Become the gravity. And she will follow, not because you made her, but because she couldn't help it. The women who once had power over men now find themselves powerless around him. Not because he did anything to them, but because he refused to do everything for them. She's used to men who serve. He offers nothing for free. She's used to men who try to impress. He never even lifts the curtain. She's used to attention being constant and predictable. His presence, intermittent, rare, unscheduled. That's the second layer of the mind game, intermittent reinforcement. The most powerful addictions in human history aren't built on abundance. They're built on unpredictability. Not knowing when, not knowing how, not knowing if. That's what makes the brain loop. He becomes the thought she returns to at night. The silence she checks her phone for, the memory she replays, not because it was perfect, but because it was unfinished. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency of the human mind to obsess over unresolved things. And most men, they give her resolution too fast, they text too soon, they confess too early. They give her the end of the book before she's even invested in the first chapter, so she closes it, moves on. But he gives her page 1 and then vanishes into his own story. And now she starts writing chapter 2 in her imagination. She starts projecting onto his image, filling in the blanks with fantasies, possibilities, questions. She doesn't even know who he is yet. But she's already rewriting her self-worth in relation to him, because what he doesn't give her is exactly what keeps her coming back. Now she thinks about him when she's lying next to someone else, not because he did more, but because he did less with more intensity. While other men try to touch her body, He touched her unconscious mind. He anchored himself to her emotions, not through drama or love bombing, but through contrast. He was the first man to withhold when others gave, the first man to be silent when others spoke, the first man to walk away before she even had the chance to decide what she wanted. And that feeling of being the one left behind, of not being chosen, that rewired her. That's the secret of anchoring. You associate yourself with her emotional high point or her emotional confusion, and you become the symbol of her inner chaos. When she laughs hardest, you're the one who made her laugh. When she feels seen, it's you who saw her. When she feels frustrated by uncertainty, it's you she blames, and you she can't stop trying to solve. You become the itch she can't scratch, the tension she secretly likes, the mystery she returns to, not because she's curious, but because the feeling of not knowing keeps her hooked. Most men try to become her safe place. He becomes her storm, not to hurt her, but to awaken her. Because here's the truth no one wants to say. Women do not pursue men who make them comfortable. They pursue men who make them feel alive. This man, he is intensity without apology. He does not make her feel safe because she owns him. He makes her feel safe because he owns himself. And that safety creates respect, and that respect creates surrender. She cannot seduce him into submission. She cannot impress him into obsession because he lives in a world of standards, not reactions. That's the final layer of the mind game. You don't win her through pursuit. You win her by making her feel your presence even in your absence. She begins planning her life around small chances to cross paths. She begins reading into glances. She begins earning his energy instead of demanding it. And if she fails, he won't punish her. He won't rage. He'll simply disappear. Not in bitterness, in principle. Because a man like this doesn't need a reason to walk away. He only needs one to stay. He has no fear of losing women because he's already found himself. And once a man reaches that point, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he chased her, but because he finally became the kind of man who never needed to. If this narration stirred something inside you, you already know what to do. Like this video, share it with a man who's ready to stop chasing and start ascending. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss this kind of wisdom. And if this mission speaks to your spirit, support the channel through the link in the description. You don't need to play games to be pursued. You just need to become the man she never saw coming and never forgets once he leaves.